Dylan, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are you?
Good. Yeah, I mean it's a beautiful fall day where I'm at right now in Pound Ridge. So yeah, hard to complain on a day like that.
You're close to the city there.
Yeah, that's my studio is in Dobbs Ferry, which is close to the city. That's like right above Yonkers. And I'm living sort of where I grew up, like my family's house right now, which is in Pound Ridge. And that's close for how woodsy it is, but it's not exactly a convenient trip. It's like an hour and a half drive, or like Metro North, it takes about 70 minutes. Yeah.
To get to Manhattan.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful though. I can see some nice trees in the background there.
Oh yeah, it's very beautiful. Yes.
For your paintings, it seems like important that you're in a place that you can get inspired by the landscape, right?
Yeah, well, maybe as just like a person in the holistic sense. I think for my actual paintings, I've been very inspired by where my studio is in Dobbs Ferry, because that type of nature is very interesting to me. It's like right on the edges of the city, but you still have these kind of pockets of nature, but there's no moment that's not like specific and sort of like lived in. And there's these very beautiful moments that are just like also like cars going by, strip malls, I don't know, like detritus. I sort of liked that lived in nature, like that sort of fringes of the city landscape. As far as just like a painting subject, to me it's more compelling than like a postcard or like a picturesque kind of painting or sort of like a landscape in general. It's sort of like a place that feels specific to me that I can live like a full um have like a full experience in is just a little bit more tied to a sense of place than just a generalistic nature.
I'm glad you say the word specificity. Often you have very detailed renderings of perhaps a strip mall, and then maybe you have an like more abstracted sort of the sunset here, or
Hmm.
there is a lot of specificity in terms of the place, but also the mark or the way you're painting.
Yeah, I with both of those things, I don't really try and force anything. Like they're both like kind of places I might encounter like my day-to-day experience, just like moments where I might have a little bit of free time to actually just like be somewhere and like experience it fully and not just be like getting groceries or whatnot, or like working on something else. And when I'm painting, I'm really just going after what I'm interested in. And at least when I'm painting on site, I feel like that's like I'm fully focused on um, just capturing an experience. And when I'm in the studio, there's just like that other complicating factor of I'm more aware of the painting in front of me. But even then, I'm not really trying to think like how do I style this or like how do I make this like a compelling image? Like I'm really going after like the logic or like the full sense of this experience that I'm after first and foremost, and let the paint catch up to that.
I'm glad you say that. Looking at your paintings, I really am transported, utterly transported into the experience, into it seems your experience of that place and of that moment. So, how much of it is done on site?
The past year, not as much. I only just got back into like painting on site in like a more serious way. I got a little burnt out, just like it's sometimes it gets pretty tedious carrying all that stuff around, and like
Yeah.
especially I work pretty large scale for on-site paintings. I like this like 41 by 66-inch format, which kind of fits in my car. But that means like even if it's like a little bit windy, it's like it's a lot of
Yeah.
movement, and it's not like one of those nice relaxing plein air experiences. It's kind of frustrating, and I can put up with that with so long for so long until it's like, why am I doing this way? Um but yeah, I even when I'm not actually painting on location, I like working from drawings. That at least give me like the architecture, like the mapping of like where everything goes, like in relation to like where I'm standing or moving around, as opposed to like just taking pictures or whatnot, where you're relying on not really like a bodily orientation of the world, but like a image of the world. And to me, the most important thing is like if I'm going to rely on something that's like when I'm in the studio and I'm not standing in front of it, I at least want like the drawing or the mapping to be like really tethered to like my bodily experience of that place. So I'll use drawings, voice memos, and I will take some videos and narrate them, or take some photos for like general light or detail things that I don't want to spend all day rendering. Because I've been practicing drawing, but I'm really not like good enough to get everything really quickly all at once. Like I can get the important stuff and like the stuff that matters to me that I know I can't get in the camera. And but like if I'm going to spend all day rendering, then all of a sudden it's sort of a different uh it'd be a different kind of picture than it's like I wouldn't get the stuff that's important to me. I'd get the a rendered experience or whatnot instead of the holistic one.
What is it about a site that might attract you?
Um, I really couldn't tell you. Sometimes I feel like, I mean, it's like, it seems so simple to describe it sometimes. Like sometimes it could just be like I'm thinking in color and I notice something that is like both something internal to me and also something very specific to an environment, or like um, the trees match the construction fencing. And I noticed an after image that also has like a magenta orange, and it all feels like complete in this very weird way. Um, that might be something that attracts me to a painting, making it a painting. Um, it could just be like sometimes when I'm walking around somewhere, all of a sudden it clicks like a sort of like shape of walking through, or like a space of an area that like feels like I can like visualize the that space as like a form, and I'm interested to see how it can fit into a painting, and that could be a starting point. But it's usually like a push to try and see what happens. It's not ever like a this is a complete image that I want to go and put down into a painting. It's like a spark that I feel like maybe the painting might be good at figuring out. That spark is maybe the most direct but still general way I could put it without like pigeonholing myself.
You go to a place and there's like you have a moment where you can kind of see something,
Mhm.
or maybe grab onto some moment, and then it becomes fleshed out as you go. Is that
Yeah.
accurate?
Yes. So sometimes I also am interested in like entoptic phenomena, like the stuff that's seen within vision, which is like floaters and after images. And sometimes I'll like notice these sort of fleeting moments of experience, like where you're looking up at the blue sky and see those darting white lights. It's called like blue field entoptic phenomena. And
What do you call it? What's the phenomenon?
blue field entoptic phenomena. Like if it's like a very clear day and you're looking up at the sky and you notice not just your floaters, but like these sort of darting small white lights. Um, it's actually it's technically like how your eyeballs always have blood vessels there, but you don't see them. But when it's a clear day, you see the light difference of like those blood cells going through your um, uh, blood vessels, and it's literally like kind of like casting a shadow on your retina, and you see
From
this
your
sort of
blood vessels?
yeah, then you see the light difference because it's like stands out as something that is not like usually visible. So it
Wow.
ends up just looking like, I mean, I read that at least from like some people that decided to really study what that was instead of just taking it for granted, darting white lights on a blue sky. But
Wow. So it's a physiological phenomenon.
yeah, yeah. A lot of that stuff is it's like I mean floaters, there's like physical things floating around your eyeballs, detritus and such.
Wow.
And I mean after images too, it's like that's like the fatigue of the retina, and also the basis of how we see any sort of color relationship or things in the world, that's sort of relational or comparative. Um, yeah, so those sorts of things stand out to me as like they have this kind of visual interest or beauty, but like it's really hard to communicate them. I mean, you could describe them like I just did, but like painting has the possibility of like picturing that or like, putting it into a material in a way that feels like you're directly translating it. And so sometimes I'll get excited about painting some of those things because I just want to like put them down and like see them a little bit like longer.
That's something that would never show up in a photograph because
Yeah.
it takes the eye, right? It needs the physical, the body.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which like to me stands out as something that matters more now that we take images and like virtual images for granted so much now that like I think it can be hard to even remember that there is a big difference between like physical perception and physical vision versus like the picture of the world vision or like a HD camera or something like that. Um,
It's a whole different thing, isn't it?
mhm.
What's the difference between looking at a painting in person and looking at an image of a painting? It's a completely different thing, right?
Yes, yeah, and I mean I acknowledge the reality that paintings will be translated into images and like there'll be reproductions of them and digital versions of them, which might be the majority of how anyone sees one of these paintings. But they at least have the possibility of being stood in front of and like having that possibility of like here's one attempt at a direct translation of a lived experience, and here's another one in front of you to sort of it's almost like a I mean it's kind of cheesy, but I think of them kind of as possibilities of like a portal of experience more so than just an image. Like here's my portal to a moment of life, and yeah.
I got that sense when I saw your show, and it's funny because I saw your images of the work that you're describing now, and I saw them on digitally first. A friend had reposted them, and I didn't see that show. And then another show, the next show I saw in person, and I was completely transported. But I felt like I had to see the actual paintings in person. I mean, I think they translate well too digitally, but I really got a sense of being immersed in this space and getting the experience and having the visceral experience of sort of
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah, and thanks. I'm really glad you're able to see them in person because yeah, like I often like I don't mind totally like that they have to exist as images. Like that's just like you can't really complain about things that are just like a given in today's world. But like I wish you could at least see them bigger. Like because I mean the
Yeah,
scale really matters because when you see them all shrunk uh kind of
compressed
shrunk
and
in and
tiny.
compressed, you
Yeah.
kind of notice the peripheral moments which like first, which to me are sort of like this like grounding like movement that sort of like drive the sense of space and like where you can focus, but instead it's like it ends up being kind of like, oh, here's like swirly, distorted world or something instead of something that I feel like reads a little bit more concrete when you're standing in front of it. I mean, maybe not like totally concrete, but at least like, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, certainly much more experiential, right? Because you're seeing your whole field of vision is encompassed.
Exactly. Yes.
Just for one thing, but also the feeling of the paint. I mean, a painting it really at best is it's a living thing, and I get that sense looking at your work that there's so many different facets to it, and there's different modes of thinking, and maybe some beautiful like some kind of almost abex or like you're really getting at this sort of materiality of what paint is.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I definitely I don't think I'm even capable of making like a super flat surface painting just because I feel like you said about like a painting being alive, like it doesn't really feel like too woo-woo to say that. It really does feel that way how like a material, like the modulation of a material, it is sort of like alive, whether it's um like a color relationship that is sort of like almost vibrational or like kind of active and it's like it's not just one color but it's like shifting between those two colors whether it's just like the kinetic marks whether it's like the a material sort of like binding to the ground and having this sort of bothness of like a image or and like a almost like a rock surface. I feel like paint has this thing that has this aliveness like between different states at least for like I mean how a person is going to see it at least. I feel like it doesn't feel like conjecture to be like a painting is alive in a sense. And I feel like that happens through letting the material things happen too.
When those moments happen, how much of that is planned and how much of that just sort of happens naturally?
I'd say at this point it's almost entirely natural and even when it's not, it still feels like at least when you're in this for me sometimes it's nice letting a painting be in the studio long enough that I can I mean let go a little bit of that initial experience, which in some senses like contradicts like my whole like conceptual approach, like logic to how I paint from life. But I do think that painting eventually needs to speak for itself and its like material language. And that sort of just like giving yourself enough time to like just see what it is and sort of just following the material logic. And um, it's funny. It's like it's so speaking out loud about it, it seems like a contradiction to what I'm trying to do, but I feel like it um, in a holistic sense works a little bit better.
If you just let it happen and too you're not planning it too much. But it sounds like you have this process where you're going out and you're doing a drawing, or maybe some of it's from some of the paintings done on site. But if you have like a reasonable sort of mapping of it, then you have a kind of a framework, and then the rest sort of, does it seem like it kind of falls in place after that, after you have a kind of like an idea of where it's going to go?
Um, yeah, because I think so much of it is I'm excited to see how the painting unfolds when I have that sort of initial idea or drawing, and that sort of like a momentum of putting that sort of either sense of space or sort of feeling of like bothness or like any sort of um, something about an experience that couldn't be easily pictured, and that's sort of driving me to make that painting. And I feel like I have that momentum trying to get it on, just like to see what happens, whether that's like it's happening in real time from life or in the studio, to sort of like trying to build it up. And it does get tough to finish them once I sort of see once it's like kind of happening
Yeah.
already. It's
Yeah.
tough to finish them, put in those like details, which uh, I feel like are important because they ground it a little bit more. But it's like I can see it, the painting already in front of me, and it's like harder to motivate myself to to really
So
finish.
not knowing is motivating, right? Like
Yes,
it's you're
yeah,
discovering these
yeah.
things and
Yeah.
as you go. But now I have a question about this sort of do you think about the temporal quality? It seems like there really is like an element of time, and I wonder, is it a single moment or is it a series of moments, or does it vary?
So when I started painting directly from life, which was like 10 years ago now, like I've been interested in different like perceptual experience things like the entoptic phenomena and like different color ideas for a while, but painting directly from life, I was really only doing for the past ten years, besides like being young and like just painting outside just as something to do sometimes. But doing it seriously the past 10 years. And I started out just basically staring at something and like fixating at one spot and like thinking about what the peripheral uh what the periphery looked like in relation to this sort of like focused like foveate area of perception, and seeing like the side of my nose and um
I was going to ask about that. It was, I remember, and I was like, am I remembering that? Was there a painting of the side of your nose and of your
yeah,
eyebrow? Or that's the experience we have, right? We're seeing like
yeah,
part of our
exactly.
face, and then the way that we see is, it's not like a camera. It's not flat.
Yeah,
It's kind of rounded and
and at least most people they're seeing with two eyes,
yeah,
not just
yeah.
a single lens or anything. No. Um, and I notice I see I guess it's my right eye, this side of my nose from my right eye a little bit more dominant. And I'm definitely not the only person to paint the side of my nose. But like it's because I mean we all have it, and but like it's something that I feel like was a good entry point to allowing or really just trying to situate my paintings more in like embodied experience to like to go along with the other entopic phenomena I was interested in. And but they really started out these sort of staring paintings as a way to really interrogate those things in a clear kind of way, like it's um, and then and I mean, the temporal aspect of that was like if I'd set up outside, it's like there's a sort of natural thing that happens of just what happens in a 7 hour period of painting with changing light and whatnot. Um, but I also started at around a similar time using voice memos as a way to like help me along with the paintings, like describing experiences that were kind of fleeting. And that was also interesting to me, like how I would translate experience. It became kind of symbolic without really trying to make it be that way at all. Like I thought it was a matter of fact, but just how you speak about what's happening around you, it ends up being, I don't know. I'm definitely not a poet, but it's like it had this sort of sensibility that it was, had a lot more weight and character than I would have thought necessarily.
What might you say?
Oh, I don't know. Like, well, for instance, I remember one. one time I was describing like how my brow sort of met the shadow of this sort of boggy area, and it was like a lizard mouth shape. And like I like what I was like, well, at the time like that's how I would describe that shape. Because I mean, it's hard to draw with words, especially
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you're not a writer or a poet, and you're trying to also describe something that is changing and hard to describe in the f first place, like the uh,
Right. If you could describe it in words, you wouldn't be painting the painting
yes, yeah. But
on a certain level.
so it's like the voice memos are useful for some things that you could describe, like, oh, that after image is going from like magenta border, green center to like magenta center to like blue center, yellow. Uh, and because that's happening in quick succession, and it's like you couldn't really mix all that paint that quickly, but it allows you a sort of shorthand, and you can describe it as it's happening, and it's that's helpful. But then, yeah, it becomes a little bit stretched when you're trying to do everything with it sometimes. But and then I just noticed that it would happen that way. It became a little bit symbolic. But that was a little bit of like breaking out the temporal experience of it, and then I think eventually I was thinking about how I really wanted my paintings to not be just so ocular, and just I wanted them to have the full sensory field, and also like a way more I felt like perception is way more bodily than they were being communicated in my paintings. So I was trying to have more of a walking sense of space and moving around a space. And I think that's been a rabbit hole I've just been going down kind of since then. And I think with the paintings in some ways are getting a little bit uh, too big for themselves. There's like kind of too much space to put in, but it's been it felt like a path I needed to follow and figure it out that way. So there's a lot of temporality in that because you have multiple vantage points, you're moving around, and time's changing as you move around, and there's and that's both internal and external, whether it's like the shift of after images or the change of light in the day, even different days that I'm showing up. It's like yeah, so there is a lot of time packed into those before I even start painting, and the whole material layered process of paint comes into the equation of showing time and build up. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard for me to imagine trying to do what I have been trying to do and have it be like a condensed immediate snapshot. I mean, I feel like there have been painters that have done that quite well. Like Alex Katz, I feel like it's like a really good example of someone that's trying to have something be really immediate but still feel like present in like a lived way. But I don't think I'm really a good Alex Katz painter.
But I think you have there's a depth though that he can't possibly get because of that. You have all these layers, which I think that's closer on an experiential level, that's much closer to the actual human experience. Like you go to a place and it's not just one moment. Maybe one moment stands out in your mind, but then there's like all this stuff happening. There's the perceptual quality, there's the bodily quality, time, perception, the actual physical. And I like what you say about the internal versus the external. I wonder if you could speak to that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in life both of those things are always like intertwined. But like when you're making an image, sometimes uh just for a practical sense, you have to differentiate because they do change over time. So if I'm feeling like I know this like this original feeling was feeling this like inextricably linked like bothness to like being somewhere and being surrounded by an area, but then you're also trying to like the practicalities of drawing or painting an area means like you're usually going to be focused on like a specific thing you're looking at, and you have to maybe shift gears and be like, okay, well, I know I also wanted to have how like that part of the sidewalk kind of blended with my cheek, and like these things that I sort of remembered about what mattered to me about what initially wanted to make me make that, or what initially compelled me to make that painting. Um, and of course, that changes over time too when I'm actually there and kind of taking longer times to look. But I I just try and make room to have like the full spectrum of things to try and make it feel like that there's no hierarchy of inside and outside because they happen all at once, like any person lives in the world. Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about that, about hierarchies. I've been this on this Northern Renaissance sort of quests, or just deep interest in the Northern Renaissance paintings lately. Like
Nice.
it's just it's amazing stuff. I mean, it's amazing. There's actually a great show right now at the Morgan Library and Museum of medieval illuminated manuscripts of Psalms, and there's a painting from Bruges. It's just called the Master of Saint Augustine, I think. Probably after this painting, which is about Saint Augustine's life. It's very much like a Van Eyck, but every moment, and such is the case in like Memling's or Van Eyck's and
Mhm.
most Northern Renaissance paintings don't really have a hierarchy. Like everything is equally clear. Everything is rendered with the same care. You know, like a leaf, a tiny leaf is rendered with the same care as the main figure in the painting.
Oh yeah.
And it becomes like this interesting sort of, it becomes kind of flat in a way, but also just immensely condensed in terms of the sheer amount of visual information packed in the painting. And I wonder if they were seeing, people often say, oh, they didn't understand perspective, but I don't know that's true. I think that they had a narrative and they were telling a story, and it wasn't really about, they weren't really trying to like make a realistic, quote, realistic scene, whatever that means.
Well, yeah, and I always feel like that like kind of phrase like understanding perspective is really funny to me because like um it's so limited. Like is understanding perspective like doing just like one point perspective or
Yeah.
like, and it's just like okay, like sorry, Mr. Descartes, like it's like it's these like kind of more like mathematical, like striated space kind of versions of the world kind of being like the de facto, like that's the like if you don't do it that way, you're somehow like ignorant of that. Like I feel like I'm much more interested in all the painters that have found inventive ways of showing space and moving around space, and a lot of those like Flemish and uh Northern European painters were pretty good at that walking around space, and whether it's like Bruegel or like Patinier and like yeah, I guess some of the painters you're talking about, I could see that that storytelling thing being just as compelling of a type of perspective. Um, but yeah, I'm much more interested in the painters that think more about what a painting can hold as far as like a perspective in space than just like uh, doing it right, checking off all the boxes, like the proper like homework of proper perspective. I mean, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
one, because there's so many different angles, there's so many different perspectives, so many
yeah,
different
exactly.
ways, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's something to be said about if it's like a theatrical kind of space and it's like a backdrop and like you wanted to just like be there and have everything kind of going on like within that backdrop, and then it's hard to have these like multiple perspectives in the painting. But then it's like you have to account like that the stage is like part of that too. Like and if so if you're trying to be a painter that's not just making a backdrop and you're trying to have like the whole thing, then I feel like you need to make room for those other aspects and
Not that it has to be one or the other, but I was thinking about like later Renaissance, like Caravaggio's and Raphael's and whatnot versus the Northern Renaissance. You know, like they very much are theatrical. It is like a stage, and you look at, there's like figures that are very set up, and there's a certain thing. There's like a, the background is much like, the background seems like a backdrop in those paintings. It seems like it's not as important, you know, and it's more important like the scene, what's happening there on the main stage, right? You have this thing happening. Not that again, not that it has to be one is better than the other necessarily, but I did notice there's a lot of, I went to the National Gallery last summer,
Mhm.
and awesome museum, of course, tons of just amazing stuff. They had this Van Eyck, the Arnolfini portrait that everybody's looking. I mean, there was a huge crowd around it because everybody, like, it's a famous painting and everybody wants
Okay.
to see it, of course. But I was fascinated that nobody was really looking at the Caravaggios,
Hmm.
and I wonder if there's a shift because we're sort of like on these like flat digital spaces. It seems like Northern Renaissance paintings or even just late medieval paintings have a more in common with the digital spaces that are used to now. I've gotten used to.
Oh, interesting. Is that because of all like the darkness and like the Caravaggio paintings, maybe? Like, because like the darks don't show up on the screen
Oh,
as
maybe, maybe so. Maybe that's it. But it seems like there's like it seems like kind of condensed in the Northern Renaissance. You had like all this stuff happening. It was kind of flat, but you could
Hmm.
move around and everything is very clear on almost like a digital. I don't know. Maybe I gotta flesh this out a
Right.
little more, but
Yeah, and I know what you mean. Like it, I mean, I can't picture I don't know specifically the paintings you're talking about. Like, just like I don't have like a clear mental image, but I know like theoretically what you're talking about. And like, I feel like it makes me think of today, all the vector file cartoon advertisements that we're kind of inundated with, where like everything is like really sharp but cartoonish and like instantly recognizable as like a symbol or a thing. Because like it's our short attention spans, we need to know exactly what that is, and at the same time, and have it be vague enough that we can sort of like project ourselves on it, or like, and so that's like this kind of like shorthand cartoon universe. And I see this also happening in a lot of paintings that become sort of popular online at least, that they're all like very clearly decipherable like very quickly. Um, Even if they have complex stories to tell, the uh the imagery is kind of has this cartoon simplicity, which I feel like maybe at one point had a sort of modernist bent, but now I think it's different. I think it's more like an advertising kind of, not necessarily consciously. I'm not accusing the artists of consciously being advertising, but I think we're so inundated with these, like advertisers use these eye tracker things to sort of streamline every experience. I think our perception has become so streamlined and kind of messed up.
yeah, we're all going to be influenced by the culture, whether you like it or not. And so I think you're inhabiting these spaces so much, it has to influence the way we're creating art.
Yeah, yeah. So that's scary to me. But it also like just makes the stakes a little bit higher for me for like the way I've been trying to paint and like with the paintings that I seek out, because I feel like it all of a sudden has a little bit more weight and importance. This something to break out of that streamlined experience a little bit.
As a kind of antidote to that,
Yeah.
what do you gravitate towards in terms of when you look at paintings?
Oh, that changes on any given day.
If you were to go to the Met, for example, where would you go first?
Well, I used to make a beeline to the Barnard Room, and there's that terrace at Vandenhoeck painting
Mhm.
that they have at the Met.
Yeah,
And I still love that painting. That painting still does it for me after many years of
yeah,
staring at that one. But now they have all these like Picassos in that room randomly, which doesn't make any sense to me. Like Picasso didn't really care about color. He even said so. Like so maybe it's like this juxtaposition of like tonal versus like more like modular color. But yeah, that's disappointing to me. But that how they changed that. I also like sometimes they have a Soutine landscape at the Met that I like a lot, but it hasn't been on display recently. Um, I like the Cézannes at the Met, and then I also like going to see the Poussins in the kind of older European painting
they're nice.
section.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I like the Bruegel paintings of like the field, like the sowers or whatever it's called.
oh, classic.
Yeah, and the mayonnaise always do it for me. I like the Thomas Hart Benton room, the sort of panorama like America story that he tells. It's like downstairs in the kind of like American modernist area. It's really
Like
cool.
by the Frank Lloyd Wright room down
No,
there.
it's downstairs from that. It's like
Hmm,
it's so
I don't know
imagine
it.
like you're, if you can if you know the Met well and you know what I'm talking about, like the Bonnard room,
Hmm.
go out to the room that has like the even more Picassos like to the right of that painting, and then you exit to where they have like the postcards and the posters in the bathroom, but you make a left and go into like the sort of abstract like
Oh, I do know.
and then you
Yeah,
go downstairs and you have the contemporary gallery, and then you sort of exit to the side of one of those rooms, and then you have a larger area. You have like the Florian Stettheimers and like interesting like American modern
There's like a
painting.
Mondrian on the way. A
Yeah, I
couple
think so.
Mondrians on the way
Yeah.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a Thomas Hart Benton sort of room where it's like each wall is like this
Yeah.
of like telling this like American industry story
I'm sure I've seen it.
with like a people on the subway reading and like this sort of montage of spaces and really interesting colors. Like it's I think it's like a oil glaze over casing and it's um really kind of interesting material and color thing, but it seems very like efficiently done, but there's a lot of visual interest there too, and like changes of vantage point and time and place and space and yeah, that's a really cool piece. I love that piece.
Yeah, I was thinking about your work, and I feel like just going back to it being an antidote to the quickness of contemporary culture. I was having a conversation with another painter on the podcast, and she was saying that a lot of art now is like fast art, like fast fashion, you know.
Mhm.
And I think of fast food, like so much of the culture is quick, it's so fast, and I
Yeah.
think that's a reason that I've been gravitating towards Van Eyck and Memling and these painters because it's so slow. It's just so slow. And it's the slowest painting there is. It's got to be, you know. I mean, it's just so like you can feel the love and you can feel the care. Now, think it's very difficult to make a painting that's slow in the culture just because we're consciousness is so permeable. We're influenced by the people around us, what we see, we absorb this stuff. It's not all bad or good. It's just the way it is. And I wonder, for better or worse, what do the paintings of the future look like?
Um,
Like
I'd hope
Angry
that they
Birds or something. I don't know.
I'd hope that they turn much more like to the physical lived world and like sort of see what painting is useful for as opposed to just like kind of going with the flow of whatever like OpenAI is doing or whatever like vector file cartoon advertisements you're seeing on your Instagram feed. I don't know. Like I'd hope that eventually it's a wake up call just to be like, what this is something that you can do that has a very strong tie to life and something that like is not going to be like I don't know. I feel like it'll differentiate itself in a stronger way. I hope that's my optimistic
Yeah.
take. My pessimistic take is that we're going to be so perceptually fried that like we won't know the difference and yeah.
Interesting. With it, I want to just ask about two things you just said there. One, did you say wake upologists?
Wake upologist.
Yeah, is that what you said?
Good job.
Is tell me about that.
No, I didn't
You
say
didn't
that.
say that.
I'm not sure what I said, but
But I think that's good. That's good. I think we just invented the best job of all. Like it's important. We do need wake upologists. Come on, we need people to get back to the real,
yeah. Well, I
like
mean,
what
I think historically that's usually just been anyone that's
it's
doing
aware.
something that it isn't
Yeah.
like 100% commercial or
Yeah.
whatnot. Anything that's like halfway inspired is wake upologist.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Just creating some awareness though. But what
Yeah.
also you said that what painting is useful for, and I wonder if you could speak to that.
Well, sure. I mean, like, whether you're full on the abstract spectrum or like super like into verisimilitude and realism, like painting can translate like things that are like not put into words yet. It can put things like it can translate experiences that are like embodied and sort of lived in this like kind of actualities of experience, like more like a full spectrum experience, multisensory. And it's like that's way different than like the picturing of like the world in general, or like as if everything was just like this ether, like an example of things, or like the distancing this of the world that's in this sort of virtual space, or like I call it it's like the image world, just like this like constant barragement of images. Like paintings and artworks in general like don't need to play that game. They can exist in a different sphere. It doesn't have to um you don't need to communicate with the virtual world if you don't want to. It can you can go all in on sort of communicating in a um, more living kind of
Yeah,
way.
experientially.
Yes, yeah.
I really get that sense looking at your paintings that I can really, really. Every time I've seen, I think I saw two of your shows at Jack Barrett, and each time I felt like I could have stayed much longer. Because there's so much, there's such a density, there's such a care and a real effort, I think, to articulate an experience through painting and through something that only it's like these could only I look at your work on this could it can only be paintings. These have
Uh,
to be paintings.
uh, yeah,
And
I've tried other mediums like printmaking is just not one to one enough to me, and I don't have a photographer's eye for subject matter, and I'm still sort of traumatized by the crappy work I made in sculpture classes at college.
same. Yeah, yeah. Oh man. But there's such a real quality of affirming. It's very affirming of painting and it's life affirming as well. I think painting is something that I think it kind of affirms itself.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I feel like I both am sort of drawn by that momentum of the initial experience to make them happen, and then also the sort of material aspect of the painting sort of eventually sort of comes to the forefront and um, sort of takes over largely. And yeah, it's just sort of allowing them to come alive in that sense in like both of those spectrums. And yeah. I've been sort of weighing in my mind the past year, sort of like the tension of how strict to be with like the logic of that initial experience and the observational part, and how much do I give up for like the reality of what's actually in front of me at the end of the day, the painting, like what's going to be the painting, which is going to be the only communicator to everyone else, like um and there's no other thing. It's like that's just the painting. So how much to let the material stuff take over and sort of let almost be like an editor of my own work and not just like hand in the handwritten manuscript and be like, here's the book because that's like what was pure to my original thought or whatnot.
Like how much agency to give the painting.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and that's a very base level thing, but it's still a tension of just like how much do you stay sort of true to that initial concept or the sort of logic that drives that painting, and how much do you just forget about it?
Yeah, and just go with it. And right. But that's like that is kind of the eternal question. And I get a sense that you're really like looking at your work, you're really wrestling with that. And you can see that and you can but that's part of it's like woven into the
Yeah,
content.
yeah, and that's probably what makes my work sort of feel more like my work
Yeah.
too. It's just these things that I kind of can't help, and I've always had this back and forth in my mind.
Yeah. They're deep paintings and I could get a sense of your thinking through. They feel very almost philosophical, I would say.
Oh, yeah, well, thanks. I mean, I definitely am no philosopher, but I am very inspired by many philosophers. Like Merleau-Ponty is one of my favorites.
Who's he?
Maurice Merleau-Ponty wrote like the Phenomenology of Perception and great essays like I and Mind and Cezanne's Doubt. And he's all about the sort of bothness of experience, like the world is wholly inside and I'm wholly outside of myself. And like sort of thinking about this embodied type of perception and how all the senses are interconnected. And he's like this sort of antidote to Cartesian thinking. And um, reading him, it only gets like more and more like prescient as far as like the stakes we're up against and like a more and more disembodied culture, a more and more spectacle oriented culture. His phenomenology really inspires me on like a holistic level. It's like something that makes sense for someone that paints from life. And it also it relates a lot to another big influence of mine, which is Goethe and his theory of colors, which is another sort of uh, both physiological and like sort of internal and also totally um, intensely investigative of like the natural world and like natural phenomena and like they all tie together. It's this like, kind of holistic way of thinking about what color and perception and really nature and our relationship to it is. And so both of those are way more influential to my work than any visual artist. So in that regards, like philosophy and um, has been a huge influence to me. But I am no writer or actual academic. Like painting is my way to sort of do anything with that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I wonder, do you ever listen to the show Philosophize This?
No, I don't know that.
It's really good. It's like a 30-minute, each episode's about a half an hour. It's like a breakdown of various philosophers throughout history. I wonder if they have an episode on him. I'll try to check it out. But there's a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of great, it's really nice because it's very concise and very accessible.
nice. I only listened to one podcast on philosophy ever, and that was after I read The Poetics of Space, the Gaston Bachelard, and I was interested to hear what other people had to say. And I listened to one episode. I forget what it was from, but it was on The Poetics of Space, and that was interesting. The sort of non-causal, like the idea of like something that can come out of nowhere into your imagination, and there isn't actually anything that caused that to happen. And I like that sort of allowances of these um, things that are part of actual experience, imagination, one of them, and just making room for the whole spectrum of that.
Not just a sensory experience in terms of the senses that vision and sensation, touch, whatever, but it seems like it's even imagination could
Oh
be.
well, yeah, imagination is fully part of the senses if you think about it. Like I
Mhm.
don't know if you ever like as a kid played like pretend games or something, but like I feel like it's once you have this imaginative connection like with the actual world, your environment, it's sort of the world sort of grows or it has like more like intense sort of texture, like presence when you sort of imbue it with all these things. And even if you're not like a kid playing pretend games anymore, it's still sort of true to a degree. When you um, uh, allow yourself to like think externally and allow yourself to have like imaginative experiences with the world, it sort of makes the world that gives it its liveliness, really, because sometimes it's all subconscious, like, and it's just like the world has presence anyways already, but like I think it's also something that can be honed and just sort of makes life it's like both like you grow your imagination and the world grows with your imagination.
Hmm. Yeah, so that kind of going back to the internal, external.
Yeah. I forget the details of the story, but it always resonated with me hearing I think it was like Joni Mitchell was like in a funk or something, and then one day she was just like out in the water or something, and all of a sudden the world became funny to her, and like everything started to click again. And I just love that the sort of like world becoming funny and like the like presence and is like regained, and like you can sort of make something again. And yeah,
With it, so it's a matter of your perception.
it's a bothness thing. It's because
Yeah.
it's like the all of that is out in the world surrounding you and is also sort of something that you can sort of put out there as well.
So it's there, but your perception's influencing that. That's influencing you.
Mm.
Do you get into panpsychism at all?
I don't know what that is, so I
Do you
don't think
know?
so.
Do you know? It's like the idea that everything's alive, or
Uh,
pantheism, I suppose. It's like a
the
kind of a
object
spirit.
ontologists or whatnot. I feel like that's something that makes sense in a theoretical way, but I'm not actually like it's not something that I actually hold as like a spiritual belief or like take necessarily literally. Um, I appreciate that mindset, but I don't necessarily live my life that way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of hard to take action on, right? And what do you do if that is the case? If everything is alive, and if everything is part of the one, if it's all the one thing, it's like that's great, but you still have to get up in the morning and brush your teeth or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like cry when I throw out my bacon, egg, and cheese wrapper or
Yeah, you still have to live.
I mean that's very reductive, but yeah.
No, I know what you I know, I know what you mean. You have to be practical in a certain way. Yeah. So how long have you been up there? You were in the city before you moved up there, right?
Yeah, I was in Brooklyn for a long time, pretty much since art school, and then after graduate school, and then COVID, I had moved up. I was staying with my family, and then my fiance and I lived in Los Angeles for like a short amount of time, and then we're in Dobbs Ferry for 3 years, where I have like this garage studio that I still have, and uh, yeah, I mean, I think we'd like to get back to the city if we can, but it's just very expensive, and we don't have to
Yeah,
get into the financial things of the
yeah.
world on this in this conversation. But the studio I have right now is very spacious and practically works, and
You're
that's
making big paintings.
yeah, yeah. I am. I mean, I like this. The format that fits in my car is like fairly big, and I could probably get by doing that for a while. But I like having the option of making some paintings that are larger than car sized, and uh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. What is it, 40 by 60?
yes, yeah, 41 by 66. Yeah,
Yeah, I have many paintings that are exactly 44 wide because that's the widest I can get.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
it's funny these things that just they shouldn't matter, but they really
yeah.
do. Luckily, that's like it's almost like a body size painting, which I do like this sort of like doorway body size format. It just sort of makes sense to me on both the intuitive level and also just something to stand in front of like a landscape that is in the um, body format, more or less. Just helps with a sense of space. Yeah.
And for the experiential quality, right? Like you can
Yeah.
really, I feel like you can really inhabit that space in that on that scale.
Yeah, yeah, and then and it's a good. I mean, I don't like having like a standard, but like it's a good. Okay, fine, I'll just say standard but it's like a good standard because then if I have a smaller painting, then it sort of allows like a more like a quick glance or a headspace painting to really be that and not have to like take over as like my whole philosophy of the world, like of like just headspaces, and then a larger painting can be more all encompassing and sort of multiple vantage points, and um I just like having the flexibility to have the scale really sort of matter.
So you make smaller paintings too.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, it's always a lot more comfortable painting outside, making a smaller painting. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Like that's really what all these plein air setups were made for when you don't have to worry about. I mean, I got stakes to tie into the ground to hold stuff from flowing down, but it's still a real hassle setting that stuff up and like uh, still like yeah, it's making large paintings outside is you really have to be excited about what you're
Yeah. Yeah, on a windy day, it's like a sail, right?
yeah.
You gotta button it down, and then you got paint up. You get paint all over the car, and
Yeah, yes. Yeah, my I just got a new car, or not, well, new used car because my I mean, like again, something else that I want to get in this podcast, but
yeah.
involved catalytic converter theft, and it was really annoying. But
Oh no, I yeah. Yeah, so
um
where I got a cage put on mine because it was
uh,
there was a rash of them going around in Brooklyn stealing
yeah, it's
catalytic
like
converters.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, fortunately I did that, and then the next couple weeks later, they tried to steal it. They cut the pipe
Even with the cage.
with a cage. Yeah, they cut the pipe, and then but fortunately they couldn't steal it because the cage was on there.
Oh
But I had to
wow.
get the pipe repaired, which was like $100. But
That's maybe better than th- the New York laws make it you have to get the original manufacturer
oh
of a
really?
catalytic converter. And yeah, with Priuses, the heavy metals that they used for the ones in
It's like
the
cobalt and so forth.
yeah, and the Ukrainian war has made those metals sort of skyrocket in price.
Really?
Yeah, so you're looking at literally like $4,000 to spend
So
on
it's
like
like totaled basically.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, what a track. Well, in New York, I
But
know.
anyways, my last car is completely covered in paint, and my new
Yeah.
same car but no paint, which is kind of
You're
funny.
trying to, yeah, yeah. Well, it will eventually.
Yeah. Well,
That's
I don't know. Now that I have this fresh start, I'm putting more cardboard around
there we
this.
go. Yeah, yeah. But I remember doing that. I used to go out there and paint in the field. There's nothing like it though. You have to work quickly.
Yes. Yeah. Um, it does sort of like it pushes you to just act first and kind of think later. And I mean, patience is also a valuable asset when you're outside because slowing down can help you in the long run sometimes with that. Like it really is like the the tortoise and the hare sometimes with that stuff. But I do like that the environment kind of forces your hand to a large degree. And I mean, speaking about bothness, like that's the most bothness you can possibly get, where your decisions are kind of being made for you essentially by the surrounding environment. Um and that's exciting to me still. And yeah, and it's something kind of it is fun. Like you might not finish the painting in one day, but you have at least something that didn't wasn't there before. Then that and that's a different kind of satisfaction than showing up to the studio and like having sort of planned out process. Maybe like I'll in the studio I would do the whole underpainting, and it's like slowly unfolding and very planned in some degrees. Even if I don't know what it's going to look like. So yeah, I mean, painting outside's fun in that way. It's like you're kind of giving up a lot of decision making.
You're kind of like a hunter out in the field, right? Like looking to make a kill, and then you make a good painting or make some good you get some good moves or whatever it is, and you can bring it back, you know.
Yeah, or maybe at the same time, if you like, I don't know if this isn't like a real an metaphor, but I feel like you'd have to both be like the hunter and be the deer at the same time, or and
Yeah, at the mercy of the thing.
uh,
Yeah, yeah. So you went to undergrad at Cooper, right?
yes,
And then you went to grad school
at
at
Columbia,
Columbia. I knew that. Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of New York, yeah.
Did you go straight into grad school?
No, I took like 3 years between that time, just making paintings, playing a lot of music, and just
Yeah.
enjoying being young in New York. And
Ah, the best.
yeah.
The best. Yeah, it's wild. We met briefly when I was looking for a studio in New York in like
Oh, really? At
2013.
504 Park?
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
you were renting out, you had a studio and there were some spaces open, like cubicles, but I was looking for a space that was a live work thing. But I
Oh,
remember we met
yeah.
briefly and I saw your paintings. I was like, oh, they're good. They're so good.
Oh,
And
thanks.
then there were like figurative paintings.
I think I mean, maybe with like, of the sense like stuff there of items and things and spaces.
Yeah.
Um,
You just got out of undergrad. And I think then you went to grad school and then I met you later at the
okay.
show at Jack Barrett. It was cool seeing, having in my mind that, oh yeah, you made this kind of work. And then it was this whole thing. So what was in between?
In between,
Though the paintings that I might have seen in 2013, which were more, I want to say almost pointless, like some Bernard quality, but very
yeah,
beautiful. And then the paintings that you were making over the past 5, 10 years now, it seems like there must have been something that sort of bridged those two.
yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny because like my close community, it's like they're probably all very aware of the work I've made that whole time. But people have just come in to know my work through my shows, either like Jack Barrett or like the show I had in Los Angeles at Matthew Brown or wherever, and maybe like don't know that sort of earlier work. Um, to me, there is a continuity because like they're still thinking about a lot of the same, at least perceptual ideas, whether it's like entoptic phenomena like after images, or at the time I was interested in like sort of like retinal noise, like what a dark room actually looks like. It's not just like a flat black, but it has like a sort of noise or sort of
Like static, kind of?
yeah, at the time I was thinking about that, like not like fully static, but just like uh, almost like a retinal energy or something like that. So it's like a something that made like just like a white wall in a dark room sort of feel like it had, or not feel like I feel like it's just like an optical quality. It's just like it felt like both I was looking at the texture of the wall and there was like this film of something in between me and the wall too. So I liked, but and they sort of coexisted as the same color or
Hmm.
color space. And I was interested in that when I was younger and sort of this idea of like this bothness of color. And I used that basically as a structure to make paintings. It was kind of like a poetic, like jumping off point to just like make paintings in a kind of happy-go-lucky way. Just like here's a painting. It's inspired by this aspect of perception or color, and like that's the underlying structure. And uh, that and I mean, not to knock that too much, but I mean, I feel like it was sort of just like this. Uh, just happy to make some paintings, and that's sort of what I was doing. And
So quite abstract compared to what you're making now.
yeah, well, I felt like I mean it was an easy thing to say back then, but I felt like I almost didn't see a real difference of whether I made a fully abstract painting or like a more realistic one because they were still driven by the same.
The ideas of perception
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah, so I did try and have that full game, and I had some paintings that were kind of almost fully abstract because they were kind of maybe just focused on like a noise aspect or like I was earlier in this podcast, we are talking about like the blue field entoptic phenomena. I was trying to do some stuff with that, and then also after images, I was doing this whole series of like basically covering my eyes until my eyes were like kind of adjusted to the dark, and then opening my like the hands away from my eyes very briefly in a bright lit environment and covering them up again, and sort of like just watching the after image sort of like emerge back up and because I was doing with both my eyes as opposed to just like a camera snapshot, it still had this like spatial aspect. So that was interesting to me. Like I felt it was like this after image of a room that still had like a spatial characteristic, but I liked thinking about it as like this like external thing that's like completely internal. And I was trying to like figure out ways to picture that and like had these like sequential paintings of like the before and after and whatnot. And yeah, again, like this kind of really just being happy with like using that as a jumping off point, like structure a painting and just sort of seeing what happens and um being happy if just like it was like a functioning painting at the end of the day. And I think it was during grad school that I got more serious about just like going straight to the source and like the kind of going for the jugular, so to speak, about just like painting from life and stop just beating around the bush or just making examples of what this stuff might be and just doing it.
that's good. That's good. So this stuff sort of made its way into what you're doing now.
Yeah, there's definitely like a continuity and like uh these underlying philosophies or sort of like thinking about perception and the world. But I think slowly it started to become a little bit more integrated with where we're at with in the
The
actualities of
external,
today's world and
yeah,
the external world
yeah.
and figuring out ways to not just make a painting, but like what painting can do in like today's environments. And
I appreciate that. I mean, also I mean, it seems like you're really getting at some of the really interesting qualities about having a body, about the perceptual things. Like the eye is so sensitive. Apparently, it can detect a single photon in a dark room. It's that sensitive to light.
yeah, I bet.
It's just amazing. It's amazing, and that you're able to get. And there's so much that you can get at it if you're aware, if you're paying attention. There's so
Yeah.
much there.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like I wouldn't want to necessarily like posture myself as some like vision expert. Like I feel like a lot of what I'm doing is just like painting stuff that doesn't quite make sense to me, but I know that painting can translate that. And and I feel like that's the important part. I'm not necessarily trying to tell people like this is the right way to see because it probably isn't. But I feel like I at least know that this is like a situated way of being in the world that I feel like I want to see put into a painting because it's kind of threatened in today's environment, I
Oh, that's
feel.
good. Yeah, it's kind of an endangered species, I
Yeah.
suppose, right? Good slow painting and thoughtful painting. I think you said a couple times that you're not a philosopher, you're not a writer, you're not a poet, you're not a scientist, but you're an expert at painting, and all these things are sort of woven into your craft.
Yeah, I'd at least accept that. I mean, I'm not like yeah, but I mean, I'd feel confident enough being like this. I'm an expert at what it is that I do.
it's not isolated either, though all these things sort of feed into it. And I
Yeah,
think,
they feed into it, but I
yeah,
don't want to insult the people in those fields by being like, yeah, I'm one of those.
well, a true expert never says they're an expert, right? So the people in those fields that are experts would probably think that they could learn something from painting.
Well, yeah, I hope I would be thrilled if that happened.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, do you have anything coming up? What's going on? Is there a place people can see your work?
Yeah, well, in the meantime, there's just my website, which is not quite up to date, but I will have something going on next year, but I don't want to speak to exactly what it is and what the timing is yet, because it's one of those nebulous up in the air things. But I will have something next year, whether that's New York or elsewhere. Um, there will be some venue to see my work next year. That's
Excellent. Excellent.
that's as specific as I can get right now. Yeah.
People should stay tuned.
Yes.
Because seeing your work in person is really, it's
Oh,
truly
thanks.
an
Yeah,
experience.
or at least see a one-to-one scale reproduction of my work sometime. That would
They
be
could project it or something, or no, but it's the physical thing. Like we were saying, it's a lot, like it's
yeah.
just feeling, just you feel the physicality of it. And there's these moments that, and I was sort of looking earlier on some of your work, just such a painterly, visceral quality that you're able to get at while maintaining the experiential, the external stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that's like second nature at this point because like so many of the paintings I was making earlier on in my life were so like fully kind of or they're just predominantly fixated on surface. I feel like a lot of that stuff is sort of just second nature to me in the sense that I don't have to think about it so much, but it also is in the sense that I really feel like a painting isn't doing its job if it's not imbued with that sense of like the material is also like a gesture and sort of has this full sense of it's not just like a illustration or like an image of a world, but like a response, a gesture, a bringing to life of a material sort of force that wants to do its own thing. It's all those things that I feel like painting can really do when you let it sort of run wild and sort of just steer it in the right direction. I feel like that's uh yeah, I take it for granted a little bit because I couldn't imagine myself painting any other way. I think I would like just not allow. I would be like, this is a painting that I don't like if I was restricting myself in that way. So I do take it for granted.
Yeah, I mean, once you've tasted freedom, from time to time I'll see a scene or some perceptual thing, and I feel like I think about your work, and I think that's a sign that you're doing something right because they're so unique in their way, but also they really refer to the embodied experience.
Yeah, and yeah, no, that's cool to hear because I also sort of make a point in what I like to paint that it's like all stuff that it's like structural to perception. Like it's not just like hallucinations, but it's like stuff that is maybe on you can't take a picture of it, but it's like kind of there if you look for it. And I mean, I do take imaginative liberties with some things, but it's like a lot of it is physiological or yeah, just mhm.
Things that other people would have
Yes, yeah.
a shared experience.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like shared experiences that like aren't necessarily like visible between us, but like are visible between us like internally.
That's good. And I think that's something really important, us being in such intensely social beings we have to have like shared experience and art has to have, not has to, but I think yeah, it has to be kind of language that people can understand and you can
Yeah,
communicate.
well, and it's just sort of fun that it's sort of like this is a language that like we do have and we can speak to each other with this language and like it's kind of a I don't know. It's one that's kind of threatened in a way by like I said earlier, there's a lot of these like kind of streamlined systems that would rather we just kind of do away with everything that doesn't quite make sense. And
what does it do? It's like homogenizing everything,
Mhm.
the programs, and it's becoming digital and flattening everything out. And
Mhm.
also just in terms of product, there's really not, there's much more emphasis on product than process, and I really enjoy looking at your work in that, seen from that perspective, that I get a sense of the process very
Yeah.
deeply.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, definitely. I mean, that's maybe kind of, I was talking about that tension between like the initial process or the like the initial from observation process and the studio process. Like, they're both of those things are part of my process, but process is very important to me that sometimes I think about those tensions between them, and it bothers me because I don't know how to reconcile them because they feel like they're at odds, and yet they're sort of what make the paintings what they are.
It's hard because we're so influenced by the commercial aspect of it, of you got to make this product and make something that people want to buy, whatever it is. That the culture is very is it's a very, we're all consumers, so I'm not
Yeah.
being too critical of it necessarily, but it is something really good to be aware of how much the influence of of consumption and product is a factor in one's life and in one's artwork.
Well, yeah, because if it ends up being that like it's kind of like use it or lose it. Like if you don't like use like a certain muscle and it's gonna like atrophy, and like then you can't use it to lift things or or just do things that you could normally do, or like and that's a part of the world that is then sort of just gone. So it's tough,
It's
hard to
true.
get back. So
It's true. You see that, especially in the way that certain programs like ChatGPT and AI programs are so good at graphic design now.
oh
At
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's crazy what they can
Well,
do.
they're good to a degree. They're good if you want
To
to make something look like a basically like
Yeah,
a in a rudimentary design kind of.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they can't make art. You
And they can't look like if you want something that has a specific look or like has some nuance to it, like it's really not that great at the graphic design things, but
yeah,
it's very good for someone that's trying to look like every normal sort of uh thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But yeah, and then like also the chat like it's offloading for a lot of people just like what would normally be like an internal thought. Like
yeah. It's true. It's true. It's true. It's really bizarre, and I wonder at the shape of the way entertainment in the future. Like right now, it can do this stuff, images very quickly. But what
Mhm.
if you were like, I want to see a movie I want another version of Lord of the Rings starring myself. I, I'm sure in a couple of years it'll be like, okay, just wait 5 minutes, and then you have this. So just the way that it's creating content
Yeah.
is really wild.
I know it's sort of like the as if like the world could be anything and like there's like kind of no value in like a specific sort of output because it just all could be whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's wild. So are we in your studio right now?
No, I'm just where I'm living right now. My studio, it's like 40-minute drive, so I go there a couple days a week, like 2 or 3 days a week, and then I work on like some drawing stuff on some days, and some days I just like take off to just do whatever.
So you might go in the field somewhere and
Yeah, yeah.
find a spot you like and do some sketching and so on.
Yes, yeah, and I work a couple of days a week too. But it's important to
What
have like to me like a free day just uh
just
to just
rest
be
day?
and like think about stuff
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
because I feel like I don't like searching for subject matter. So like kind of I mean it's very unprofessional, but I feel like I need like the luxury of time to really like have a real connection with a
Oh,
place that
who cares about professional? That's way more important,
yeah.
like having that. Again, go back to the emphasis on product, I think you kind of have to throw it all aside, and just
Yeah.
really go into it. I've been thinking about, obviously, as we've been talking about it, I've been thinking a lot about the certain qualities of paintings from the Northern Renaissance and late medieval paintings. And looking at some of your work, I think there are definitely some things that are some commonalities there.
Those sort of spaces, those sort of like medieval early Renaissance spaces are just like so interesting and like have a lot of room to move, but they're also like condensed and very sort of like I mean it's they are in so many ways like literally like the origins of our like picture universe. So like they
Well,
communicate like the image so well, and yet they're like really strange and wonky too. So
yes. Yes, that's a great way to put it. It's almost like there's spaces within spaces.
yeah.
Going back to what we were talking about in terms of perspective, I don't know how you would think to do that. It's like because they just wanted to get so much information in that space
Yeah,
that
I think it is sort of like a economy of space, just trying to like make it be legible to all like the um, patrons and religious passerbys to like kind of get the story and have it be like a quick read, but feel like beautiful and inspired at the same time. So,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
but they're much better at having like room for strange, awkward things that don't make sense than like today's version of like the quick read.
if you could sit in front of one of those paintings in the show, if you make it down to the city before January, I definitely recommend that show at the Morgan Library.
Nice, yeah.
It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. But there's one painting there that I was mentioning that I mean, I was like, it was like 15 minutes. If you can look at a painting for longer than 3 minutes, it's successful, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it is rare these days that I'll look at a painting for that long. Um, but when I do, it's I feel like it's usually paintings these days that I've like already looked at for a while, and like because I keep returning to them. I can't remember the last painting that I like saw for the first time that I looked for that long. Maybe I need to have more of an open mind next time I go somewhere.
And
But
really look at it. It helps if you just look at it helps also that if there's few paintings
yeah.
that you're going to be seeing. And that, like I said, in that show, there was just the one painting. Everything else was a Psalter, like an illuminated manuscript, essentially. So it was easy just to look at that for a while. But really looking at something deeply, I think is kind of an art form, like really looking at it and you
Oh yeah.
really absorbing it, feeling it.
True. I feel like the last one I looked at for a long time was like that Bellini painting at the Frick, like the St. Francis.
We
And
saw that too. My little sister was visiting, and I took them all around to various museums and stuff. And I was just there on Friday, and I was in front of that painting for it was a good 5 minutes.
yeah, because I mean that one on top of like the interesting pictorial things, there's such a interesting uh it's like a sienna like burnt sienna type glaze over that weird turquoisey
Yeah,
stone.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's I love like you could really just like get lost in that, just like
Yeah.
what and
Because
the
like when you see an image of it, you sort of lose that sort of loss in translation. All gets compressed, but when you're there, you see like the sort of layers and like of the color, and it's yeah, really cool. And,
it just glows.
yeah,
It glows. Yeah, a true. I mean, that's just a. I feel like I use the word masterpiece too much, but in this case, I don't hesitate.
yeah, yeah. Um, but it's cool. Like I got a book on I guess it was his father, Jacopo Bellini or
Oh,
whatnot. He made all like the drawings that like inspired. I think it's Giovanni Bellini. I don't know the Bellini that's in the Frick.
yeah,
Um, but it's cool because his father didn't make as many like crazy paintings, but he was sort of like the blueprint or like the architect of a lot of these compositions and like
interesting.
ideas and yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know. Well, a lot of these artists had, big crews. They were from art families. Like the Van
Mhm.
Eyck, both two of his brothers were both painters, and they both. I don't know if you're familiar with the Ghent altarpiece. That's
Oh yeah, I do know
y-
that's yeah, yeah.
it's the Mystic Lamb. It's also called.
Yeah.
He worked on that with his two brothers in a whole workshop for 10 years on just the one painting.
Wow.
And that it's like insane. It's insane. I was in Ghent and I saw it last summer. Only half of it's up. The other half are reproductions on the altarpiece. It's huge. It's massive. But then the other ones are being restored in a museum in the same town. You can visit that too and see them even more
Nice.
closely. There's glass, but you can see them like conservators working on it. The thing is like it's like hyper real. It's insane. A whole different level of attention.
Yeah.
Like 10 years on one painting is something like unimaginable, I think, to the contemporary mind.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I mean, yeah, because we have the whole cycle of like shows and like we also like if we're being supported by some sort of entity during those 10 years, then like great. Like, because then it's like, yeah, if you zoom out, if someone made like six really epic and great artworks in their life, like that's sort of a lot in a way. Like if
That's
it's like
good.
six like kind of like you can conjure in your mind sort of iconic artworks that would sort of stand out as probably more than most people, but still that's a way of working that just like would not work in our actual um art art
No,
economy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You'd have to be independently wealthy,
yeah, yeah,
and then so the chances of that, of your being independently wealthy and having the volition, having the will to make such a thing,
yeah.
are extremely rare. And also being in a culture that values, quickness, and that we're
Yeah, and even in art school, which is supposed to sort of be like the sort of pure kind of just like let's just talk about the art and not think about the money parts of things. Like even that, it's sort of like if you were working on the same painting starting semester one and it's like next year and like you're kind of halfway done, everyone's
yeah.
like, what are you here for?
Yeah, they wouldn't go. They would never work. It would never work. Yeah. Yeah. Even at, in grad school, I mean, I could understand for an undergrad that they need to
Yeah, yeah,
cut their teeth and so forth, but in grad school, there's still an encouragement. I think we're still encouraged that the institutions, these universities and schools don't realize how influenced by the economy, by the market they are. Some do, and some are more aware. We had a good seminar with a professor who was very aware of that, and so we read some Baudrillard. Did you say? What were you saying? You read Baudrillard and so forth, and
Um, I didn't. He's a simulacra kind of guy, or is that a
yeah,
different?
I think you're. Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, yeah. You
Um,
mentioned a philosopher that
Merleau-Ponty is the guy that
no,
I
someone
Oh,
else.
Gaston Bachelard.
Bachelard. That's right. We had a seminar. We read some of his and Thing Theory, Bill Brown. I'm not sure if you're familiar with. It was great. It was actually looking back. It was good. Foucault and people like that.
Oh yeah,
Derrida, and it was useful at the time. I hated it because I
right.
just wanted to be painting. I don't care, who cares about these musty old philosophers? I don't care. But then looking back, it was useful to do it.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was lucky in that sense of just to be exposed to these ideas, and they are important in terms of how you see your work, and sometimes indirectly or directly you can be influenced.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I'm grateful that I read some of the stuff I read during grad school or undergrad because I would not have come into contact with that otherwise because even if I a lot of it, even if I like was partially interested in, I probably just would have read other things. And it's like at least in trying to like understand the sort of shared language of like the art world at large, a lot of those sort of texts sort of do help you um understand what people are going for.
That's
Um
good.
yeah. Um so and yeah, I feel like I had also I just had like 1 year where it's like everyone's reading all the kind of traditional stuff. And it was like when people were still talking about like the autonomous artwork, really. And then it was sort of like an about face, and it changed to like kind of more just totally social issues. Which again, like I'm grateful that I had some of that experience because like it does allow me to understand more what people are going for at large in a lot of contemporary art world. But yeah, it's also I kind of wish I had a little bit more time with just the artistic part of the stuff because there's a lot to understand that's hard to understand.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's amazing how much there's so much history, and there's so many people have been doing different things, and just on a material level, there's a lot. And you kind of, one thing I think you kind of take for granted is your experience seeing things. Like as
mhm.
as an artist in New York, you've seen there's not a whole lot of art that could really surprise you. Right? So you've seen like thousands and tens of thousands of objects.
Yeah, at least materially, it's very rare. This, but like I see it happen. Like there's that guy Austin White that had a show at Petzel, I think a
Hmm.
month or two ago, And it was like really crazy surfaces with like multiple layers of like kind of sheer kind of fabrics that had like paint sort of coming through like the gaps, and it's like these images that sort of unfold when you're standing far away, but up close they're like very thick or like transparent, like moire patterns, and very very wild. Like I don't know how he did it, sort of materiality. So like
Hmm.
it happens sometimes where it's
Yeah.
like, oh wow, like that person's really like thinking through this stuff in a material way, and also has like a sort of image lexicon thing that's happening. And sometimes I do get surprised. Like people are definitely going for it, and like a lot of
Yeah.
great artists in New York. So
Yeah.
it
Oh
does
yeah.
happen. But like um just if you're going percentage wise, it's not that
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, but it happens. Yeah. There's people are still making new work. I appreciate that. Well, Dylan, it's been a pleasure talking. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
Likewise. No, I mean, I sometimes I don't really know what's coming out of my mouth, but I think we covered a lot of ground.
I
So
think we did. We did. Thank you so much. It's really a treat to chat.
yeah, likewise. Thanks so much for having me on
Thanks for
this.
coming.
Yeah, pleasure talking.
Thanks for coming on.